today I have a question for you. Have you ever been on a budget? Have you ever needed to purchase something and you know that you need to save up for this particular item, and it makes you start to regulate where your spending is going, and you put yourself on a strict budget? I want to relate this or use this as an analogy for when we track our food intake and when we take into consideration if foods are worth it in that situation. When we put ourselves on a budget, we start to look at what we spend, how much we spend, and whether we can cut back and not change certain things that restrict our enjoyment. So this takes into consideration whether something is worth it. So for example, if you consistently purchase a coffee every single morning and it costs you roughly £5 per day, maybe you get that croissant with that coffee. All these things add up over time, and maybe that's something you evaluate and say, you know what, I can easily cut back on that. Maybe I cut that back to 2 to 3 times a week as opposed to every single day. So straight away there, you cut your expense. You cut from going from a £5 coffee every single day of the week down to 2 to 3. And automatically you have made a sacrifice, but at the same time, something that you can still enjoy, but you still get closer towards your goal of saving. And this can be related to food and tracking your food intake. So think of this or your food as a calorie budget, just like your money. So when you start tracking, and this can be via a FitnessPal type app, or this could be just simply writing down what you consume on a piece of paper and logging it in a calendar or a diary, or even just a piece of paper, just writing it down straight away gets you thinking exactly what you consumed that day. When we write these foods down and when we start to track them in an app, we start to see essentially where we are spending our calories. It's exactly the same as when you kind of start to budget, you write down where all your expenses are. You're basically just kind of writing down where you expend your calories and whether these meals or certain aspects of your calorie intake are worth it. So there are going to be some things you have to spend on. So for example, month by month we have to pay rent. It's the same with your calories. Day by day there's a certain amount of food you are going to need to require in order to function. So there are certain things we cannot cut back on. But what it does is it starts us to analyze exactly where we're spending, where we're using these calories. And straight away there we can start to make changes in order to get closer to our goal. The nice thing about tracking or writing down your food intake as well is it gives you a straight away kind of feedback response as to exactly how much you are actually consuming. And this can straight away start for you to analyze choices moving forwards. Finally, it allows us to take into consideration the calorie budget of particular types of foods or social occasions. It allows us to make a more educated choice around whether that purchase or whether that intake is worth it. So whether that kind of caloric type food may be taking us too far away from our goal, and whether we need to maybe bring it back and minimize it, so maybe only have it once or twice a week as opposed to every single day. It allows us to basically assess the situation. So this is something I use with my clients, and I highly recommend you do it too. Whether it's through a formal app of tracking your food intake, or whether it's just writing it down on a piece of paper exactly what you consume. This will allow you to be a lot more conscious around your food decisions and take into consideration whether certain foods or certain kind of meals are worth it, worth their calories. And it allows you to make basically a conscious decision around these dietary factors.